Hello, and thank you for your interest in the Adaptation Research Alliance. My name's Rosalind West, and I work at the UK Government's Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office. And I'm joined by Professor Anand Patwardhan from the University of Maryland. Together, we co-chair the Adaptation Research Alliance. And in this short presentation, we'll be providing more details about the development of this alliance and the road ahead. So 2021 is a major year for international climate negotiations, and the UK, in partnership with Italy, is hosting COP26 in November of this year. So this has some major aims to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. We know that decarbonisation of the global economy needs to proceed at 3 to 5 times faster over the next decade than it did in the last 2 decades. We also know that adaptation and resilience must be strengthened, as the impacts of climate change are happening now and are set to worsen. In order to achieve these goals, the UK Presidency has chosen 5 campaigns for the COP26. Adaptation and resilience, the energy transition, nature, zero emissions vehicles and transport, and finance. We're going to focus now on the adaptation and resilience campaign, but there's a close link with the nature campaign, especially with regard to agriculture. Through the UK's COP26 presidency, the Adaptation and Resilience campaign will encourage greater political ambition, tools, coordination and commitments to build resilience through support to practical adaptation, preparedness and response, turning the ambition raised at the UN Climate Action Summit in 2019 into action. The Adaptation Research Alliance is an integral component of the COP26 Adaptation and Resilience campaign, and connects up the knowledge, science, action agendas more broadly. So as I've said, COP26 is a critical moment for action on adaptation and resilience, and that action needs to be underpinned by research and evidence. We need to seize this opportunity of COP26 to underscore the centrality of research for understanding what works and what doesn't, to ensure that our communities are resilient to the effects of climate change that are already locked in, no matter what we do to reduce future emissions. We need to increase the focus on action-orientated research, which will provide better understanding of climate risks, better decision-making tools, and better practical solutions for affected communities. The Adaptation Research Alliance is about bringing these 3 elements together. And I've got a case study here which is a very nice example from the Future Climate for Africa programme, the AMA 2050 project that was running in Senegal. You can see here that providing better risk information is very useful. So this is showing here how crop yields in the Sahel have already decreased and they're projected to decrease further. But we need to use that information along with better decision-making tools. And here we've got an example of this plateau game, which helps peanut farmers in Senegal use and apply that better risk information in order to inform their decision making about the year ahead. That better risk information combines with better decision making tools and also better understanding of solutions. So here we've got an example of climate resilient agriculture practices, where research on genetic diversity of millet and agricultural practices has helped to address future climate-related risks. I suppose by combining these 3 elements together, the better risk information, the better decision-making tools and better solutions, what we're saying is that adaptation research is not only about analysing the problem, but about finding those solutions through user-centred, action-orientated research. And that's what we really want to do with this alliance. With COP26 happening later this year, the time is right and the need is clear for us to come together to step up our ambition across the adaptation research and action communities, to do the research that is most needed to lead to real change for those most vulnerable to climate change. Anand Patwardhan will now provide some more details about the alliance itself and the road ahead to COP26.
Thank you very much, Rosalind. I think Rosalind has pointed out that we are at a moment in time where we need to step up our action on ambition for adaptation. And a critical input to that is the availability of knowledge that supports action, and in turn, the research enterprise that will generate that knowledge and make it available to the user. So the mission of the Adaptation Research Alliance is to accelerate and scale investment in that kind of a action-oriented research enterprise in developing countries, and do it in a way that focuses on solutions and addresses the needs of those who are most vulnerable, and does it in a way that builds capacity all through the process, all the way from research to action, integrates and strengthens the linkages between research and implementation and science and practice, and promotes greater learning so that we are able to much better understand what works and what doesn't, and how to ensure that our limited resources are utilized most effectively. And to carry out this mission, the ARA, or the Adaptation Research Alliance, will need to actually challenge different stakeholders and move them out of their comfort zones. It will have to challenge the research community to step outside and engage. We'll have to challenge the action community to make sure that they connect, especially to local research institutions, and bring in the knowledge they need to support action. It will need to challenge funders to make sure that they invest appropriately in institutions and in the long term in research enterprises that are action oriented. And in order to be successful in these challenges and overcome many structural and systemic barriers, the ARA, as we conceptualize it, will operate around three key functions. The three key functions that the Alliance will seek to accomplish will involve advocacy. First and foremost, the ARA will advocate for change, will create the evidence base needed to persuade stakeholders to change. And that advocacy will start by building a multi-stakeholder coalition, a true coalition across different types of actors, action agencies, research community, policymakers, funders. But advocacy will not be sufficient. The ARA will need to demonstrate real value to those who partner in it. And one of the sources of that value is by improving planning and coordination of research, ensuring that investments in research are better targeted and focused and synergized with each other. And that planning and cooperation and providing a platform for that to happen would be an important value proposition that the Alliance can bring to its members. And finally, the Alliance needs to walk its talk. It needs to ensure that the change that it advocates for in the funding landscape, in the investments for action-oriented research, are actually enabled by programs that the Alliance will develop over the course of the next several months for COP26. And this aspect of resource mobilization and delivery will, we hope, lead to a portfolio of ambitious long-term programs that will fund action-oriented research in the Global South. And again, do it in a way that leads to long-term capacity building, both human and institutional, that leads to greater collaboration, South-South collaboration, North-South collaboration, triangular collaboration, and enhanced learning that allows us to be much more effective and targeted with our adaptation interventions. So the combination of a multi-stakeholder coalition, increased profile through improved advocacy for applied and action-oriented research, and increased funding through resource mobilization and delivery will, we hope, lead to the kind of ambitious goals that are expected for adaptation. The process that we have embarked upon now for developing the Adaptation Research Alliance, in the spirit of the Alliance, adopt certain principles. We believe in being inclusive, open, and transparent. The coalition that we will create and the decisions that will be made will be done in a participatory manner and with true co-development across different stakeholders. The Alliance will promote Southern leadership. This is a Southern-led initiative that will empower Southern researchers and institutions, building long-term capacity. One of the key barriers that the Alliance needs to overcome is the barrier of short-termism and incremental and fragmented approaches. So think big and think long-term will be a principle that the Alliance will adopt both in its development process and in its operation post its launch. And another key principle will be that of promoting gender equality and social inclusion. These are goals not just for the Alliance, but for broader adaptation initiatives globally that focus on women and girls, persons with disabilities, indigenous people, migrants, refugees, and other marginalized groups. With these principles, we hope that we will be able to undertake a development process that sets the Alliance on a firm and solid path for its operation post COP26. The development process that we are going to be engaged in over the next several months is multifaceted and multi-pronged. As Rosalind has mentioned, we expect the ARA to be fully embedded in the Adaptation Resilience Campaign for UK's COP26 presidency and in connecting effectively with other elements of the overall COP26 campaign. Building on that, we have already created a number of working groups to focus on some of the functions that I mentioned earlier, on establishing the value of action research, on the importance of action research, on supporting planning and cooperation, and on mobilizing resources and figuring out an effective governance model for the ARA. So these working groups will continue to work and meet and develop these ideas actively in the next several months. We will complement that with extensive bilateral engagement and consultation with a wide range of stakeholders to ensure that we are able to mobilize the resources, create these ambitious programs that we can put together in an effective portfolio for the COP. And these bilateral engagements will be central in being able to carry this out. Broader stakeholder engagement through a number of different platforms, including the GOBESHONA conference, other conferences, and Adaptation Futures coming up later in the year, and other more targeted stakeholder engagement platforms. Creating an effective presence and outreach through communications, a website for the Alliance, and then commissioning analysis that will support the concept. We see this as an essential way of establishing the value proposition of the ARA, of making the case and leading to the first function of the ARA, which we mentioned was advocacy. This development process will not be successful unless we have enthusiastic and broad-based engagement and active involvement from different stakeholders, from Southern institutions, both in the research space and in the action space, from the developed world, from donors, from funding agencies. And so we are really reaching out to engage with as broad a coalition of stakeholders as possible. The first step in this process is at the GOBESHONA conference, we have a declaration that a number of signatory organizations have endorsed, and this declaration calls for the importance of action research and calls and signals indeed the commitment of these wide range of stakeholders to engage in co-creating the ARA. And this GOBESHONA declaration, we hope, will only be the first step in a very visible and a very engaged process of co-creating the ARA. So we would like to end this short overview of the Alliance, which we hope gives you some idea about our motivation, about our plans, and finally, and most importantly, with a call for your active involvement and engagement. Please do reach out to us through the web, through email, and through other channels of communication and social media to be involved in the process and to help us deliver an alliance that is ambitious and transforms the lives and livelihoods of the most vulnerable to make them more resilient to climate change. Thank you very much.